Dom, welcome to the show. How are you?
Nice to see you, Jack. I think we saw each other last time in Dubai. So
Yes, yeah, your guys' event, right?
yes, it was our Hero IO event with the dancers on the patio. So nice to see you again.
Yeah, you too. You too. Um, Dom, for people who don't know who you are, could you give us a bit of an introduction, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So it would be easy for me to just say I'm a recruiter, but the story really begins about 9 years ago, when I got thrust into this world of thinking about people and that's where it all really started, and the threads continue today, but in different ways. So really, where I've gone and been in the last almost 10 years, and where I've arrived now is that it sounds a little bit cheesy, but everything is about people. And whether it's raising capital, whether it's starting a business, hiring people, looking to build your next brand, crypto project, blockchain, whatever it is, you'll inevitably have to work with people, and not just work with people, but work through people. And so I guess I've spent the last 10 years or so trying to figure out how to do that properly, and then how to uh, advise and guide people on how to work with people and through people. So I guess that's how I would summarize it overall right now.
Sounds cool, man. And obviously now you're pretty heavily involved in all things blockchain, AI. Could you talk us through your career a little bit and maybe how you ended up here in this industry?
Well, I remember living and working in Singapore 2016, 17, 18, and there I was in a search firm. You'd know all about the classical research, Jack.
Yeah.
Doing that, invoice three parts, when you start the mandate, when you present the short list, or long list, and then when you place the candidate. I was doing that for European companies setting up the APAC offices. And that was in packaging technology. We worked with even, I remember, a mobile forensics company working with customs law enforcement agencies to track your phone if you're a criminal, or somebody who was deceased and they needed to pull the data. So that was all very fun, and that was my first 2 years in talent management. And I remember sitting in Singapore, and there was a lot of discussion around crypto, and this was after or during the ICO boom of 2017, and I remember thinking, what on earth is this ICO business? At the time, I was 26 and going out every weekend, and my priorities were very different, and I just didn't look into it. And fast forward a little bit, I ended up in uh, in Lithuania during COVID, and as fate would have it, I had I was doing some on and off recruiting for some startups just to keep the money coming in, living off 800 to 1,000 euros a month in a former Soviet country during COVID. Living the dream. And as fate would have it, a recruiter friend said, "Hey, um, are you still doing recruitment? Because I've got this Australian guy. I know you're Australian. I've got this Australian guy from Byron Bay, um, looking to build a DeFi protocol." And I thought, okay, firstly, what's a protocol? What's DeFi? And he made the introduction, and I started. I took 2 weeks, went down the rabbit hole with Coin Bureau, went down the rabbit hole with all these YouTube videos and Medium articles and Twitter. And within 2 weeks, needed to basically find like two or three engineers and a VP. Um, Made it happen, and then I thought, wow, okay, this is very interesting. I learned about Aave and Compound and all that, and since then, I just went further into it. Sometimes against my better uh, my better judgment, but it's been fun.
Yeah, man. It can be, it can be a bit like the Wild West sometimes from a recruiting perspective in Web3. But it definitely hooks you. Once you get interested in it, it's difficult to look outside. I think, just because the way the industry works and that
Mhm.
kind of thing, right? You get used to operating in a certain way. Um,
The interest is really important. If you don't have an interest, whether it's learning about crypto, blockchain tech, or learning a new language, you have to have the interest. Otherwise, you won't get very far.
yeah, I agree. I agree. So moving then from, we'll say traditional recruitment, but like traditional recruitment being Web2 into Web3, how have you noticed like what differences are there? Have you noticed much difference in the way that you search and the challenges you come up against? Like, could you talk us
Yes.
through that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I've spent plenty of time thinking about this, and I think I'm an unusual recruiter because I have invested in 5 startups, and I'm now a co-founder in a sixth, which is actually a frozen pizza
Congrats.
business. Yes, thank you very much.
Okay,
In Minsk, Belarus, out of all places, and we sold our first pizza on the 3rd of April, and we've
that's
now
right.
sold 45,000. So
Wow.
and we're profitable. And that's with 3 other guys, 3 other co-founders. And I sit on some advisory boards, still small companies, right? But I see the operations and the considerations from a higher level and in a more holistic way. So when it comes to recruitment, I can see that sometimes other questions need to be asked, that other recruiters won't necessarily understand or be exposed to because they haven't either been a co-founder or haven't invested in businesses that done recruiting for a very long time, which is nothing wrong with that. It's just that um, when you get to the question of should we recruit, a bunch of other questions should have been discussed and answered previously. Um, so now I've a little bit lost your question. Can you just remind me again?
The differences between Web2 and
The
Web3
differences.
recruitment, or
So
different
this is
challenges you come up against, that kind of thing.
yes. So this is the first big difference, which is in the Web 2 world. Uh, these these business questions are asked first, and that has an impact on what I call like the talent cycle. And there are 3 other questions that you should ask before you go out and hire someone. The first one is, and it's about capabilities. You really want to understand what's your current capabilities to meet your business strategy, because if your people strategy and your business strategy are not aligned, you will find a lot of problems. So the first question you ask when you're looking at your people strategy is, who do we already have? And I think I've seen you actually post about this on LinkedIn once or twice. Maybe you don't need to hire. Maybe there's someone in the team, operational team, executive team, whichever team, or even extended teams that you can reallocate, and you have those discussions and you do that. Or and then the second question that you should be asking is, who can we develop and train? In this world, there's no excuse not to retrain, not to relearn, not to do courses. There's a lot of AI tools out there. There's Coursera, there's paid courses, there's free courses, and then there's people inside your organization that can train them. And you just make a plan and say, okay, for the next 2 months, you're just going to knuckle down. Jack is going to train Matthew, and Matthew becomes who he needs to be to fill this capability gap, and you don't need to hire anyone. Um, and then and then really the that final question is, okay, uh, those first two, you for whatever reason you're not going down that path, and you need to acquire a capability. Maybe you're wanting to pivot a business unit. Maybe you want to bring in a new technology. Maybe you're wanting to go into a different market, in which case those first 2 options are not going to help. So then you go to that final option, which is, okay, let's hire someone. So I think the first and the biggest difference is that Web 2 companies go through that thought process, and it also is related to because they're more mature. Web 2 companies are more mature, they're making money, they're usually profitable, so they're going through that thought process. Web 3 companies, crypto, blockchain, are it's still not at that level. The narrative is starting to change, and I think the goals of venture capital and founders is changing now towards a sustainability direction, which is excellent. And recruiters such as you and I will feel the positive impact of that. because when it comes to hiring, we'll feel the company is more serious. They've asked those business questions first. So that's like the meta macro difference, and then to bring it down to the ground a little bit more, I would say there is also more of a selection process that happens in the Web2 world, or less of a selection process that happens in the Web3 world. It's shorter, it's compressed. The whole recruitment process is compressed. If the hiring manager likes someone, if they've come from the right background, if the salary fits, okay, let's just get them in, let's hire them. There's plenty of times when I've seen that hasn't been a selection process, a proper one where they say, okay, here are the 4 resumes. Let's talk internally with our stakeholders and compare them, strengths, weaknesses, areas for development. Um, that that's what I was used to 8, 9, 10 years ago, but in the current space, very, very rarely. Even I was involved in such discussions as an external party. Um, you'd be dreaming in the Web3 world for an external recruiter to be involved in a selection process. So
Yeah.
that's the second difference. And and then I would just also add bits and pieces like it's a little bit nepotistic. If you happen to know the right founder or the investor, or somebody else happens to know the right founder and the investor, they're going to be ahead of you. Um, but I'm seeing some positive developments. I'm seeing a little bit more, let's say, professional approach in the Web3 space, especially this year. Um, and that's always great for candidates and for recruiters. It's great for everybody, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Do you think that if projects started implementing a real solid selection process, there would be a lower turnover in Web3? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's an industry where people stay. I wouldn't know what the average is, but I can't imagine the average being more than 8, 9 months realistically for a lot of people in the industry, right?
Yes.
Do you think that would improve if there was a more
Mm.
extreme, not
It's
an
a
extreme, but more a longer
yes.
selection process?
No, it's an excellent question because the preconditions for selection process is um, if a company is running selection process, it means that they have a level of confidence in this role, in this position, in the future of this role. And they're investing into the process. And if they're investing into the process, it means they're expecting that it's going to be minimum 12 months. Less than 12 months doesn't make sense for a company because it's very costly to hire people, or to hire the wrong people and have to fire them. And also it takes time for individuals to really get into their role, to gel with the team, and to build whatever capability the company is wanting them to build. That this takes time. So the company is definitely thinking 12 months ahead. And what does that mean? Well, it means they have to be solid financially. It means they have to be solid with the customer base, or users, or community, or developers, whatever it is. And if they're confident about all of those things, it means they've got a pretty solid business. And then how many pretty solid businesses do we know in this industry? Well, there's your top ones, your Cardanos, your Parities, your um, top 50 coin market cap, and then development companies that are making consensus, etc., that are just making a ton of money. Um, and then outside of that, in the startup world in particular, how many businesses do we know that are looking at 12 months ahead and saying, okay, we are confident for the next 1 year? There's really not many. So, that's the precondition. And then those that are confident in the 12 months and are doing the selection process, no doubt that the retention would increase. Because when you're looking at a selection process, you're looking at someone's personality, how their working culture, how they see things. You're looking at their intelligence level. Are they basically a smart person? Are they able to learn fast? You're looking at the track record. You're looking at references, and then you're identifying areas for development, and hopefully coming up with a plan to help them in those areas for development. So that's a full exercise, and it will make the person that's joining your company extremely confident in them taking this leap, and and that they're able to bring up issues that come up once they've joined with the management without fear of um, uh, repercussions or any sort of biases. So yeah, absolutely, I think retention would increase dramatically.
I think in the long run, it also, if you do implement those kind of selection processes, I think in the long run, it really helps you hire, because right now projects look at things and they go, right, we need to get someone in super, super quick. The candidate experience through a lot of these interview processes is fairly rubbish. They get a
Yes.
reputation for really not running those things very well. The candidates who don't make it, who do have a really bad time through that process, they then tell all their mates. Bad news travels quicker than good news. And then in a year's time, when they've raised and they need to scale, you've got 5, 10 times more people who than were in the process going, actually, I don't think I want to interview there because
Hmm.
my friend had a really bad experience.
Hmm.
I think it helps with the candidate experience side of things massively if you have some form of formal selection process there, really.
Completely, quality is the most important part. If you're selecting two excellent candidates, that's far better than five or six mixed bag. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. So, so in terms of the actual roles that you see there and the roles that you recruit, do you see roles in particular areas now that are in like the highest demand? Could you talk us through that a little bit and what you've seen so far, at least maybe over the last 6 months?
Yes. About 6 months ago, I took the decision to um, focus on engineering.
Okay.
I realized in the previous bear market that having been another agency, that the only recruiter still making money in that agency was the guy that was working on engineers, and I was stuck with
Okay.
product. I was stuck with product, and my buddies were stuck with marketing and um, commercial roles, and product was kind of like it was just an afterthought for every company at that time. And but engineering, I saw that companies were still wanting to see great engineers. So I thought, okay, this time around, I'm doing what he did. So I will limit my comments a little bit to that, but I
Okay.
still have a pretty good oversight of all functions. So right now, um, well, I would say in the last 2 months, engineering has definitely picked up nicely. It was okay before that, but it's picked up. And when I say engineering, I'm talking about protocol level roles. I'm talking about back end and full stack. Front end has been strange. I'm not sure because because of AI tooling really helping to take over coding there. It was very difficult to find a good front end engineer, and now there's just a lack of demand for it for whatever reason. And then I would say engineering managers for larger companies, I'm sure still exist. But for smaller companies, it's not really a thing right now. And then you kind of goes up to same with staff engineering, and then it goes up to VP. From your seniors and leads, it kind of jumps up to your VPs and CTOs. Not much in the middle, but I'm sure the larger companies are still have that depth. So yeah, it's pretty consistent across the board right now, with the sprinkle of AI engineers or automation or Python engineers that can develop internal tooling or develop a support tooling. Um, and then on the commercial side, I'd say that good marketers are always needed, but it just depends on what the client's willing to pay, depending on the time of the year or the market cycle. So,
Yeah.
and marketers should be very, very in tune with that. I'm still seeing 250, $350,000 requests, salary requests, which is pretty insane considering the retail market isn't there, and it will make a little bit of a comeback, but I don't. I don't see it being nearly as large as uh, the last bull market. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And if you're an engineer, do you think, say you're looking to move into the blockchain space, do you think it's worth heading down the Rust Solana route? Would you go Solidity EVM
hmm
stuff? Would you stay fairly agnostic?
hmm
Any thoughts on that based on what you've seen?
I think engineers' decision making should rest on two things. One, which ecosystems do they like and prefer? Uh, if they don't have a view on that, then which Web2 technologies are they really good with? Is it because if they're a C++ engineer, it's much better to go the Rust route. If you're Python or pretty much anything else, you can learn Solidity uh, quite. You can go to some advanced boot camps, knock it over pretty fast, and then it's just a matter of getting the work experience. In my view, I'm seeing C++, Rust, and now there's a new one. Is it called Flix Nix? Um,
Okay.
uh, in Golang, of course, uh, being used for much higher performance systems. So in your high frequency trading, your DEXs, your layer one protocols, and so I definitely see that as a strong pairing. And then your dApps or consumer facing products uh, using Solidity and perhaps some other smart contract languages as well. So I also see that um, divergence as well. So if you're going infrastructure, go for those high performant and quite secure programming languages. If you're going for consumer market dApps, you're interested by that side of the market, then probably Solidity and other languages.
Yeah, nice. Thanks for talking that through. I think based on what you've said there, I mean, there's roles across all areas, I guess, right? Like based on what you've said there, if you're looking down the Rust route, down the Solidity route, as you said, I suppose it just depends on what you prefer and what you want to code in. If you see roles across all those
Yes.
different areas, I mean, there's probably no right or wrong way to go about it by the sound of it. Just do
And
what
your
you enjoy
patience
and
level.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so if say founders are then looking at, well, how do we hire engineers? Where do we go? Are there any common mistakes maybe that you see those founders make when it actually comes to hiring these people? Like, are there anything that those founders can avoid if they're trying to hire good engineers?
Engineers are relatively more straightforward. That's another reason for my decision this market cycle to just stick with engineers, because I was kind of sick of this all these subjective decisions and founders changing their mind, or the co-founder having a different opinion to the other co-founder, and the investor having a different opinion to that second co-founder. So I thought, you know what, let's just, like, a good engineer is a good engineer, and there's very people can't disagree on it. It's good code is good code. So that's what I'd say on that. It's way more straightforward. When it comes to product, it's also a medium level straightforward. But when you go anything commercial, marketing, sales, business development, um, that's when founders really need to have a process in place for making decisions or reaching a consensus among themselves. And I find that the biggest issue with that is they don't have a consensus process. They're not sure why they make decisions over people. They're using a lot of gut feel, which is normal. It's human, but it needs to be backed up by data and by whether it's an interview process, whether it's taking references, whether it's putting them through an aptitude test. I know a company that started implementing aptitude tests to at least make sure their staff are good problem solvers. So that's the number one mistake, just purely relying on the gut feel rather than matching that or verifying that with data. Um, And then another common issue is that they will hire the first person that comes through the network that is referred to them by the investor, and there's just a lot of bias there involved with that. And someone's previous success does not necessarily equal their future success. So um, because the behaviors required in a previous company are different to the behaviors required in your company. So if you're going to speak with referrals, make sure you go through a proper assessment process with those individuals at least. The better option would be to interview two or three others, fresh or new candidates, and then go through the selection process. And then there's other common mistakes like not having a well thought out job description. Not put if you're a founder, not placing yourself in the foot of shoes of a candidate and asking counterfactual questions and really putting the job description, job specs to the test, and then having a strong recruitment marketing pitch. So why should candidates join you? And what's the future going to look like? What are they fighting for, basically, or what will we be fighting for together? Not really explaining that or explaining that at all. I get a lot of clients that just say, "We want X, Y, Z." There's no narrative around the company. There's no narrative around them. There's still some undoxed founders, which is kind of crazy. Um, so, yeah, those are the main points.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to ask you, is there anything really important that founders should have in place before they start to scale their teams? But I think you've touched on quite a few of those points. So a real solid selection process sounds super, super key.
Yes, and
Um,
then prior to that, in the when you're building your talent pipeline, I would also have listed and shared with your colleagues, including HR manager or recruiter or whoever it is, like a must-haves and a few points on willing to compromise, and then everything else is just not doesn't fit in. And please don't show me candidates, or let's not talk to candidates that are not don't have the must-haves, at least, and that will just make the process a lot smoother.
yeah, yeah, you're right. How do you actually attract those people? Like, how do you attract the top talent to a project?
If it's a young project, unfortunately, well, I'm not sure if it's unfortunately. Unfortunately, I think the direct approach is the your first point of call. Approach those people that you want to join your company, and make sure you have a really compelling story about it. And whether it's problem you're solving that no one thought about, or in a way that is extremely exciting and viable and scalable. So come up with some really, really exciting narrative. I think that's the first point. Whether you're doing a direct search, whether you're doing a job ad, whatever it is, you need to have a really compelling narrative, because a lot of talented people will join your company if talented and expensive, will join your company if you have a really compelling narrative and it's exciting, and they'll tell their network about it, and they will accept a low compensation. So, in a, and they will do that voluntarily. If you have a really strong narrative and you're a strong leader and you're able to show a comprehensive plan. So that's what young companies especially should be doing to attract talent, because they don't really have the time to go on a massive recruitment marketing campaign to create even a careers part in their website. Maybe it's just a Notion page or a Telegram blurb, and they don't have the time to make LinkedIn job posts and do X, Y, and Z that larger companies have the ability and luxury to do. So that's the main thing to attract the talent. Uh, yeah, I think that I've seen that pay off dividends hugely.
Definitely. Well, Simon, do you know Simon Sinek? Have you heard of him?
Don't know him personally.
Not personally, but might have seen his videos or books and stuff.
Yeah.
He speaks about that you should try and work with people who believe what you believe. So I feel like if you create a story, create that vision, you really create that why someone should want to join you. Like that's what people start to really believe in and really want to get behind. I think that can, as you said, has a huge impact in people moving jobs or maybe even taking moving away from really stable roles to take something super risky. Because let's be fair, joining a small crypto startup is probably one of the riskiest moves you can take, really. So
Yeah.
having that narrative, having that why is super, super powerful for doing that. It also, as well, it helps you with the selection process. I know we've talked about selection process a bit, but if you have that why, and if you don't get the feel that people actually believe in there and they don't have similar
Mhm.
sorts of values and that kind of
Yes.
thing, then that's super easy way to select people or remove people from the process who don't uh, tick those boxes, right? Um,
Yeah. So whether founders like it or not, whether they're more introverted or extroverted, that's just that's an approach they'll need to take, and they'll need to actively be curious about the candidate or the people's their own ambitions and their own interests, and how can they marry those two together, what the startup is planning to do and what that individual person wants to achieve and what they're interested in. And if they can get that match, it's like miracles can happen.
For sure, for sure. Well, Dom, you've shared a ton of advice on what projects need to have in place, what founders can do uh, to hire talent effectively. What about if someone is looking for a job in crypto right now?
Hmm.
What skills do they need? Do they need to do certifications? Are there any types of projects candidates should do for themselves to make themselves really stand out?
Hmm.
Can you talk us through it a little bit? Like, how does someone actually get a job?
Yes. Controversial topic. There's a lot of advice out there. I'm just trying to think of really where you can get the alpha. And if we're assuming they don't have Web3 experience, right?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, if they don't have Web3 experience.
Yeah. In that case, the best thing you can do is make yourself visible, whether it's and that could be building a brand on LinkedIn and just posting every day, every second day, um, and just getting eyeballs to your profile. Or and that could also be, I don't know if I don't know if Instagram is a thing in this space, probably not, but X. Okay, X. Um,
Yeah.
get people seeing your profile on X. Put out your opinions out there, share research, do research, pretty much whatever you need to do to get eyeballs, um, and then people will start looking at you. And that, because if you don't have people looking at you, you're not going to get opportunities. So that's the number one thing you're going to do. Or you can send 50 LinkedIn messages a day, whichever one you feel like you can have the patience for and bandwidth. But the point is, you need to have people looking at you, and if people are not, because when they're looking at you, people get ideas to see. Okay, well, all right, Jack comes from a sales background in automotive. Um, and 99,000 people will look over you, but it'll take one person to say, "Oh, we actually need a sales manager for a custodial, a crypto custodian for a crypto custodian startup or company or whatever." And it's hard to find salespeople. If he can sell cars, why can't he sell a custody solution if we train him up? So, um, so you need people to look at you. That's the number one. I'm not suggesting to do shit posting or spamming or share misleading information. It needs to be informative, but that's the number one thing you can do, especially if you're not an engineer. If you're everything else, that's the number one thing you can do. If you're an engineer, um, honestly speaking, I would hit up engineering managers, CTOs, and VP of engineering directly on LinkedIn, and just and say, look, you've got this Web2 experience. Here's my code contributions, portfolio, whatever, and and it aligns with. And if you train me up, I can learn your technologies, because I do see a need for juniors and interns to join companies in the engineering team. In the marketing team, I feel like it's just um, it's not something that they want to spend a lot of time on. But engineers understand that it's constantly evolving, and they're very willing to kind of like train each other. So that's what I would suggest. Yeah, to kind of like take those two approaches, ask for referrals, speak with recruiters. Recruiters are a little bit stuck because they need to place people, but still, 95% of recruiters that I know are willing to help out, to give you ideas, to put you in touch with people, put you in touch with hiring managers, to send you to the right places, and then you can always approach other people in companies that you want to join that are not founders, that are not executives, not managers, not hiring managers. They're kind of broadly speaking, team members, and ask their advice on how they can join the company or how they could speak to the right person. I think a lot of employees would love to give their advice. They'd love to speak with people from the outside world, so to speak, and bring in
Yeah.
normies into the space. So that's also another piece of advice.
Yeah, I think that can be really powerful. Building your own, actually, a few things you said there can be really powerful. Building your own personal brand, definitely, definitely, definitely. Like if people aren't doing that already, that's such an easy way to, as you said, like get more visibility on your profile. If you're
Yes.
really interested in Web3, which to join the industry, you can't really be half-fast about it. You're either really into it and you want to get into it, or you're not really, and you're going to be up against people who are so passionate about the
Mm-hmm.
space that they can name you the 10 projects that launched this week and how the TGs went and what they're building and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Regardless of the position that you're in, you can write your thoughts on LinkedIn, on X about what it is, maybe super related to like your job or like how you would go about stuff or like analyzing stuff that's been released or talking about different projects that you like and why you like them and that kind of thing. Because I think then when people do come across your page, when you are applying for stuff, say you send your CV somewhere, have your social links on there and things, when people come across, they go, well, Dom doesn't have experience in Web3, but I can see he's super passionate about it because all he's written about for the last 3 months is blockchain, crypto, Web3, new wallet, staking, like whatever it is.
Yes.
So I think that, yeah, it's super, super powerful for doing that. You can also find roles purely from that. I know a VP of
Mhm.
engineering who works at a uh, very prominent project who actually got his job from posting YouTube
All
tutorial
right.
videos for people on
Yeah,
how
there you
to code with certain things and how to like
go. Oh
build
yeah.
smart contracts and all that kind of stuff. And the
Good one.
founders saw his YouTube page and said,
Yes.
"We love what you say.
Yeah.
Come and join the
That's a
business.
good
Do
one.
you want to be our VP of engineering?" I mean, I'm
That's
not
a
sure
good
how
one.
often that'd happen, but it can.
Basically,
Um,
just set up your channel and pretend you're the dev role, or
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
easy, easy. And then yeah, as you something else you said there about networking with the teams. I always say to people, if you're looking to break into the space, build a list of 200, 250 projects that you really like the look of.
Mm.
Try and find the teams, just reach out to them on X, join the communities, the ones you really like. Just try and add value, answer community questions if people are asking about it, if you know a bit about the protocols and things.
Yes.
Um, try and do any bounties that you can get involved in if there are
Bounties.
any.
Good
Join
one.
any hackathons that you can are always a good one as well. But like just try and grow your networks within the industry because you'll be surprised how many people will give you a chance if you know someone in the team already. As you said, like founders, they choose people that they already know or that have been recommended to them, right? So like if
Hmm.
you can try and grow your network, that's probably one of the most powerful things I think people can do.
And
Um,
to be a little bit realistic on the compensation, well, potentially very
yeah.
realistic. Maybe put in a few months of free work or low paid work. I think just need to be very realistic about that as well.
Yeah, it's a good. Yeah, actually being able to take a bit of a dip to get
Yes.
into the industry is that's a good shout. Yeah. Um. So you must have interviewed thousands of candidates probably over the last few years working in the space. Any particular mistakes that stand out for you that everyone makes that you said, I just wish people had stopped doing this and it would help them tenfold?
I'd like to switch it just a little bit more towards what candidates can do to stand out in a positive way,
Okay.
and what, or rather, what talented people tend to do, which
Yeah.
is they tend to be very clear in what they're good at and what they're not good at, and be able to, in the first 2 or 3 minutes, rank order those and disqualify themselves from things that they're not good at and they would not be comfortable being proposed for. So they're very good at communicating that, and they're very good at communicating that verbally, in written form, or over a video call, or any other form. So they're very good at, they know who they are, and they're very good at communicating that. That's what really stand-up people do, at all levels of seniority, um, and yeah, I think that's really the main pattern, um, and they're overall very good communicators. So as we're going through the recruitment process, let's say it's between rounds, and it's probably taken a little bit longer from the client to give the feedback. They'll be very good with the follow-ups and to say, look, I know it's been a little bit of time. Have you managed to um, speak with the client yet? Their patience level is very high, and actually, as a good recruiter, one thing in the last, especially 6 months, I think I've really worked on is my patience. You need to be very, very patient in this space with the feedback, either getting it or receiving it. You need to be very open to strange things happening, and the good and the best candidates are very, very patient, I would say.
Yeah. No, that's good advice for sure. I agree. And then pushing technical skills aside,
Mm.
what types of people are founders really looking for? Obviously, great communicators, as you just said. Anything else that founders really want to see from people?
Uh, well, if we're talking your CEO founder, um, they really want people to take work off the table without those people really knowing what the work is. So I know that sounds like a big ask, but what it means in practice is that the people that want to join the company can preempt the CEO founder's needs and realize that they're very likely focusing on, number one, on fundraising and dealing with investors, and number two, dealing with customers or users. And those are the first, and there's a first and maybe only two things that they should be focusing on, whereas their sidekick or like the co-founder COO type, a back office co-founder is focusing on everything else. So if and in this space, it's usually the CEO driving the hiring decision at that point. So the best the most insightful people or candidates will realize those are the two interests of the CEO and come in and say, all right, I can handle all these other stuff for you. And I'm pretty sure this is what needs to happen, and get it done. Um, CEOs are extremely busy. They are pulled everywhere that you can think of. They're traveling, they're going to conferences. Let's not forget, they need to be very evangelical. They need to be up there on the stage. They need to be championing championing their approach to cross-chain lending or their app or whatever it is. And so if you can, as a candidate, come and say, all right, I'm going to take all this off your hands and I can start on Monday, I think that's the type of people they're looking for, including including an engineering team or whatever team. That's what founders are looking for deep down, and they're not really going to tell you that either, because it might make them sound a little bit demanding or um, somehow not able to handle everything. This is the irony of founder CEOs. They also won't tell you that they need the help because they're expected to look like Steve Jobs in the eyes of their investors, of the team, of their family, of everybody. So they're also not going to tell you that. Yeah, that's in summary.
Dom dropping some industry trade secrets right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
But so Dom, you've shared some great advice over the last 45 minutes. To finish up, are there any closing words or like any piece of advice that we
Mhm.
haven't talked about that you think is super important that you'd like people to take away from this?
Absolutely. And I had a chance to think about this before we started the call. So I could probably narrow it down to three things. The first thing is DYOR. Always do your research in this space. It's absolutely key. Whether you're applying for jobs, download that app, connect your wallet, make sure it's a legit website, um, and play with the product, the technology, the bridge, the swap, the uh, virtual machine, whatever it is. Make sure you're using tech where this is still technology. Use the tech, use the platforms, check the social media channels, and really do a deep dive. It's going to be very impressive to to the hiring manager, and you'll also get some insights and you'll be able to impress them on the call. So that's number one. Do your own research and don't always rely on what other people say. Um, number two, um, I would say is like always inject your passion wherever you can. Show that you care, show that you're interested, show that you would really like to see something in the space, and then portray your passion over video calls, over X, LinkedIn, whatever social media and professional channels that you can. This is going to shine through, but then also be prepared to back it up. So if you're showing your passion and your interest, and it's because it's contagious, then be able to back it up with your facts and figures and knowledge and experience and your ideas. So those are the two main points of advice for candidates. And then where I see the hiring going in this industry, I do see it maturing and professionalizing it. I see companies finally seeing the in their behavior, which is so hopefully they will stick to reliable recruitment partners. I think they will start to have a lot more well thought out job descriptions and reasons for hiring. They'll have a lot more well thought out selection process and budgeting, and also expectations on KPIs, on the goals that these individuals should be meeting, and the success criteria. So, I mean, talent acquisition is just the beginning. Then the person needs to onboard and start. And like you pointed out earlier, they need to stay at the company. So then you're getting into the talent management side, and I think talent management will also play a larger role. And we're going to see more comp and benefit managers. We'll see more performance managers. We'll see more of that type of thinking going on, more strategic people strategies and building capability strategies on the company side. So I'm looking forward to that, and I will add going to see, I think we'll see a lot more institutional adoption, companies coming up with products and services for companies using crypto, and the public markets, public chains are going to be somewhat absorbed or used, but still very important. And we're going to see a pretty even split, I think, between retail and institutional hiring in the next 12 to 24 months.
Dom, thank you very much for joining me today. You shared some great advice, and maybe let's jump on in 12, 18 months' time and see if those predictions have
I'd
come
like
true.
that idea. That's a great idea. Let's do that. Let's put it in the calendar.
Great stuff, man. Well, yeah, appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Thanks for the invite. See you soon.